She was very sick, bleeding a lot everywhere, bruises everywhere. A couple days later, she's in this hospital where we didn't know if she was going to be coming out of the hospital. We didn't know what was going on.
Well, Audrey and I met 12 years ago. I was born and raised in California and moved out to Colorado for my job. And we actually met in a country bar. And I sauntered through the dance floor and asked her to dance, and we went out 2 nights later, and that was in October of '94, and we were married in '98. Ayla came along in April 28th of 2001.
Everything was normal, everything was fine, healthy.
Very healthy the whole time. I don't think we ever had an ear infection, never was sick, really was very healthy and just real normal as far as her first few years.
I first noticed there was a problem with Ayla when she was at the playground with a playgroup, and she was accidentally kicked by a little boy, but by that afternoon she had the deepest, darkest, biggest bruise on her leg from where the kick was. So I thought, okay, something's wrong, this isn't normal. Kind of came prepared and armed to the doctor's office the next morning. He thought it might have been ITP. They did a blood test right away, called us that afternoon, said go down to Children's Hospital in LA.
And we did our very first treatment, which was about 4 o'clock that day, was Winrow, because that was the most unevasive treatment and quick treatment. And they said one of the side effects potentially was getting flu-like symptoms, and we literally got down the elevator and out the door, and she was shaking uncontrollably.
And that night when they gave her the Winrow and she had the reaction, they gave her Tylenol. She came down after 20 minutes to half an hour. So it kind of made us feel a little bit better, able to go home.
It was about 3 days later, Tuesday night, 6 o'clock, and I went to give her a bath, and she was potty trained at that point, so she was on the potty, and I noticed blood in her urine. So we called up the hematologist, and they told us to get down to the emergency room right away. And that was the start of our real, welcome to the world of ITP type of an incident. We had a pretty significant roller coaster from October, when she got out in October, until I would say the culmination was August of 2005, about an 11-month period, where the first 3 months, from October to December, she would go up and down. They tried every treatment they could. She'd go up for a little bit, she'd come down. And then it comes back, and you have to kind of regroup and realize that now it's starting back over again. We were scheduled to go back to LA July of 2005 for a wedding, and because Amanda was young, it was just going to be Ayla and I going. And 3 days before we left, her platelets were still low. They were at 4,000, and she had a little tinge of blood in her urine. So we went to Children's Hospital, and they said that it really wasn't that bad, and they basically cleared us to fly and said, you should be okay, drink a lot of liquids. And it was a Wednesday that we left, and we were at DIA, and right when we pulled up, she started getting a nosebleed. And we didn't think it was that bad because it would bleed for a few minutes, and then it would stop. And typically they told us that if it bleeds for 10 or 15 minutes pretty bad, then that's when you want to get her to the hospital. Unbeknownst to us, she was bleeding internally. We didn't realize that she was bleeding, blood going down her throat. And it was about 1 o'clock on Thursday, and we were at Chuck E. Cheese with a friend of hers, seeing one of her friends that she had just moved away from. And she turned to me and she said, Daddy, I don't feel real good. And I said, okay, let's go to the table and get some water. And I picked her up, and she said, Daddy, I think I have to throw up. We didn't realize that she was bleeding, blood going down her throat. And I went to go take her to the restroom, and I immediately started feeling this warm liquid down my leg, and she was potty trained. And so I looked up to ask her, and her eyes rolled to the back of her head, and she went lifeless in my arms. And she came to a few seconds later, and she threw up blood everywhere, and then she just went back out in my arms. And I will tell you that was by far the worst day of my life, because I'm sitting here with this child, and I don't know if she's dying. I don't know what's going on. And so we called 911, and the paramedics came. And the worst part of that is they spent about 5 minutes interrogating me about all the bruises on her. And I'm just thinking, you know what, I'll give you my medical file later. Get me to the doctor and let me deal with this. They basically had said that she lost a lot of blood, and that they felt that because her hemoglobins had dropped so low that that's what basically caused her body to shut down. And so what they did is they said that if she gets any lower, they would have to give her a blood transfusion. And they made plans to transfer us back to Children's Hospital LA to get a bed for a day and monitor her. So it was about 7 o'clock, the ambulance was supposed to come there to bring us over. And about 7:45 we were waiting, and I asked if she wanted to go to the restroom, and she stood up and it was deja vu. She said, "Daddy, I don't feel good." I caught her, her eyes rolled back, I laid her on the bed, she got up, she vomited blood again, and she was out. And this time she was out for about 2 to 3 minutes. They couldn't, she was breathing, but they could not get any response from her at all. And that was about the longest 2 to 3 minutes of my life. And she finally came through and said that they said that she had just lost so much blood that they had to do an emergency blood transfusion. So they actually had to send a special team out with 5 different people to transport her while they were giving her this blood transfusion. And they did. They got her platelets up enough to stop the bleeding and to make it safe for her to travel back to Colorado and get us back to our care.
When Ayla came back from LA after going through that experience, she was tired at the beginning, watched a lot of movies, hung out on the couch. She's just getting better now. I think she's not getting used to it, but she's almost getting used to it. She's learning to live with the ups and the downs.
I would say the number one thing to anybody who's just been diagnosed is to get that peer support. You're going to have the medical support. You're going to have people that are going to tell you all the different treatments. They're going to tell you all the percentages. You're going to become an expert on this condition if you deal with it for any length of time. One thing that I've learned about ITP lately, what was said to me, is that if you talk to 4 different hematologists about ITP, you're going to get 10 different opinions. And our hematologist said that she had 2.5 of them.
What helped me was doing the research and getting educated on everything that was out there. I think that helped us because we were able to have a voice in an opinion with the doctor.
The relationship between the parents when you're going through this is kind of overlooked a little bit. In our case, we're very lucky. We have a great relationship. We communicate. We're on the same level 99% of the time on things. The biggest thing with ITP is that you're always having to change your lifestyle from one time to not having to worry about anything to with the helmets and everything else.
We even discuss with Ayla, even a little, we negotiate, okay, you can wear a helmet here, or you have to wear it here, but you don't have to here. We talk about it all the time and figure things out.
So, dance, swimming, golf, getting her piano lessons, keeping her busy enough to where she doesn't have downtime. She's busy with activities, but yet if her blood goes bad tomorrow, we don't have to stop any of it. She can still continue to do everything she's doing. When your child's diagnosed with something, your focus is that condition, and it's not a good way to go through life. And if you can sit back, and this is what we've been able to do here in the last 6 months, probably a year now, and be able to say, you know what, we got a lot of great things in our life, and while this is not a fun thing to go through, it could definitely be a lot worse.